like we've talked about, creating some new normals. You choose some new normals that are healthier. For us, we really engaged in our faith,
Yes.
and that started becoming just the ultimate compass in our life.
Hello, everyone. We are Greg and Jacquie Francis, and welcome to High Performance Parenting, where our passionate goal is to encourage you to raise champion children in a crazy world. Every week, we will bring you multiple episodes from our extensive experience of raising our six happy, healthy, successful, godly kids who are confidently equipped to win big in life.
We deeply believe that any parent who is provided with the right knowledge and continual support can raise amazing kids. And when they do, all of our futures get better. If raising up future generations of absolute champions matters to you as much as it does to us, here's how you can contribute. Like and share this podcast with everyone you know. And together, let's embrace this journey of raising champion kids in a crazy world. Hey everybody, welcome back. Oh man, we have a good topic to share today, don't we?
Yeah, we should do no jokes today, huh?
Oh, you want some?
No, I'm good. I just was wondering if I should be prepared for any.
Get you some.
We only had to start a couple times because I had a dry throat and everything else under the sun, so...
Yeah, Jackie's hacking up a loogie over here.
No, I don't hack up a loogie. That would be you.
Yeah.
You heard me.
Well, all right. This topic we decided we want to share. We're going to do it a couple of different ways. For those out there listening, one thing that we really enjoy doing of our many projects in our life is we like coaching high achievers. And we have a coaching program and business that we bring on clients, and we coach and consult them through all different kinds of life things, whether it's business and financial increase. A lot of it is strategic family success,
Relationship building and unique endeavors.
Yeah, I mean we have a lot of different. There's a number of categories, and a win in one category helps all the other categories succeed. And a lot of times people don't even know the bottlenecks that they have in their life, and so you need somebody who's an outside perspective in order to be able to see some of those bottlenecks and to be able to see your blind spots, and then speak into them, have enough courage and confidence and competence in order to intelligently be able to break down any potential limiting beliefs that are operating in your mind that are holding you back more than you even realize, just wrong thought processes you've had built in, etc. And it is a lot of fun, and it's cool watching people thrive and succeed. Well, a lot of these different categories that we help people get in alignment with, we also do this with our children, and we have a real goal of our kids being 10 category aligned fully, making sure that they're really as healthy as they can be in order to operate at the optimal confidence and courage that they need to be able to succeed in life. So which one are we talking about today, babe?
Well, today we're going to talk about friendships, which I think is super important. A lot of this topic, of course, adults can apply to their life, but specifically to children, I figured with school coming up soon and sports going on and all that kind of stuff, the right kind of friends really matters. And understanding what a deep connected relationship looks like versus more of an acquaintance versus, somebody that you just kind of align with certain areas. Maybe you have some commonalities here and there versus the ones that you actually want to have a long relationship with. I think as adults, we're always looking for the right kind of relationships in our life. Sometimes we settle for certain relationships due to our jobs or locations or dynamics going on in our life. But for children, I think they really need to always understand the importance of the right kind of friendships. Because I think every kid out there is looking for a friend, right? I mean, our little 4-year-old will go to the park and she's like, oh, I want to go meet some new friends. And how do you define that kind of friend in that environment? Or then our kids will come home from a sport that they're participating in. They're like, oh my gosh, I have such great friends. We get along great on the basketball court or something like that. And then we have a little older girls and they come home from school and they're like, well, I met some friends, but they weren't really in the same page as I were about certain things. They were talking about stuff that didn't really connect with me. And, so friends, the term in general can be pretty confusing, especially for a child.
Yeah. And I think it's a really under-taught category of life.
I agree.
And it's so important. I mean, just think about it. Most people's friends, how do you create friends, right?
Right.
It's
Most of the time
kid
at work,
who sat
maybe,
next to me in class, right? And because we're there every day together for months and months at a time, maybe even years in some cases, then they become your quote unquote best friend. And it has to, the main requirement for that friendship is that we are just forced to spend a lot of time together. So we better get along
Right.
the best we can. And, and so it's crazy though, but there's so much randomness to it throughout our lives that it can make you really not even believe in how powerful or how important it actually is to be intentional about it. And it's not taught, because it's generations of people just doing this the same way now. And it's almost like, you're rolling the dice. You hope that you end up with some good ones. If you don't, then it kind of stinks, but you learn to be more independent. But we all have this desire. It's kind of like you were saying, God made us to be in relationship. He made us to be in community. Everything worthwhile happens through relationship. Everything, it's, there's this, Grant study of human development. It got kicked off in 1938 in Harvard, and it's the longest study of human development in history. And it's really cool because it gives some pretty deep insight into what factors contribute the most into people flourishing. So what they did was they tracked and they measured and even reported on tons of aspects of life. This included things like relationships and politics and religion and alcohol use to coping strategies to everything and anything you can think of. Actually, JFK, John F. Kennedy was one of them. And some are still in this program. They're like in their 90s now, and they're still around. So it followed 268 graduates from Harvard. And what was interesting about it is that of all these factors that they kept track of, is that the biggest discovery is that the most powerful correlation was the power of your personal relationships. Well, was the power of your personal relationships. Now remember, they're trying to correlate your relationships, your health, your happiness, and even financial success. What makes one work better? And here's an interesting note in there. Financial success, there was no notable difference between men with average IQs or above average IQs. Like actually taking an IQ test, if someone graded way higher, it really didn't matter in financial increase in where they're at. But what did score the highest was that the people who had quality relationships, they're the ones that had the greatest earning power. And here's a quote from it. It said, "The men who scored the highest on warm personal relationships earned on average $141,000 per year more than the man who scored the lowest." So it's like, it was of all these categories, everything you can think of, the number one factor to financial success was warm personal relationships. And so, when you think about that, that's just one category of life too, right? Financial success, but it matters. And we want all of our kids to be financially successful because, being broke doesn't make life easier, so being financially successful is good. In fact, I personally feel like we should all be financially successful. We should never let money have us, but we should for sure have lots of money so we can do great things with it. And it should always be attached to doing something that's purposeful in God's kingdom. But we need to be able to create income. And so one of the things, if you're trying to be able to create big income, you have to look at what kind of relationships do you have. If you think about it, it makes sense, right? You're going to do better in any career if you have friends who care about you, that they're there to encourage you, they are challenging you to grow, and they're even willing to probably collaborate and contribute to your success. If you're surrounded all the time by a lower quality type of person who pulls you down all the time, is negative, is victim, has a victim mentality and kind of lets it, wear off on you as well, you're obviously going to do worse. So it's really good. They took 75 years and $20 million to do this Grant study. And basically they brought it to a 3-word conclusion that happiness is love, right? So it's good. So anyways, I just thought I'd share that because that's kind of the foundation of what we do here. For all of our coaching clients, we spend a lot of time on this category. It's really interesting. So many of our coaching clients, even though these people are just crushing it in so many areas of life, they're very lonely. They haven't been intentional with friendships. Now they'll get intentional with strategic like business relationships, but they haven't gotten fully intentional with relationships, and you can see it wear on them over time. And so for our children, we're trying to do the same thing here. So here's a couple things, like a couple of thoughts on this that, you and I have come to that are really, really important. Like one of our core beliefs, I guess, is that family is a very important special bond, right? This for sure relates and applies directly to like your parents. Your parents, they're a family. We make allowances for each other. They kind of get a special deal. We serve each other in ways that we wouldn't otherwise. And so that's one of our core beliefs, right?
Yeah, I agree.
And then another one, if you think about, then you have different categories where it gets a little bit tricky because if you have, say, an upbringing like I had with a lot of dysfunctionality, we call them more extended family. And not really to put a label on them, but just so we know how to determine what we're talking about. But, that's my parents, my brother or sister. And we look at them like they are to be honored, respected, and loved, but with healthy boundaries, right? And we've had to define that. So in other words, like a couple examples of this is we have just chosen, because of the level of dysfunctionality and how we want to live our lives and have our kids live in their lives and the atmosphere we want to get them around, that we're going to make sure not to subject ourselves to the negative that can happen there from their chosen lifestyles or attitudes or passive aggressive nature. And we still honor them, but we have strong boundaries with them, right? And you want to speak to some of the ways that we actually handle that?
Yeah, I think first of all, just back up for a minute, I think the way we were able to kind of define this was so that we could explain it to our kids in an honoring way. We are always trying to, obviously, just like every parent out there, protect our kids, love our kids, but also have boundaries where we know they need them. Maybe because we know more of the situation than they ever will. And so, especially in the example of like Greg's family, many of the dysfunctional things that have happened or continues to happen, I should say, our kids don't know about. They don't really need to know about it all. The only thing they really need to do is know that Grandma and Grandpa love them. They get to enjoy Grandma and Grandpa.
Yeah.
We limit the amount of time in what we do with them. And, for our situation, we really had to figure that out, you and me first. We had to define that. We tried to do too much at one point, tried to be too involved in the family dynamics, tried to be, getting our kids around the same way maybe we did on my side of the family and whatnot. And it really became unhealthy, first for you, and then unhealthy for me. And then it kind of went through our family. And so we realized that we had to kind of redefine what it looked like.
Yeah.
So when we did, it was hard at first. It was especially hard on you because it was your family. And
it was a tough adjustment.
Yeah, and it didn't happen overnight. Again, this was like we had been parenting for 8 years when we figured this out. You know what I mean? This just didn't happen the first time we had kids or anything like that. But enough situations had happened, enough conversations had happened where it was very obvious that some of the decisions that your family was making, they weren't willing to change, even when we were around them. We wouldn't have tolerated it from anybody else. And it was getting to the point where we really had to put up boundaries for the safety of our kids and their minds and their spirits and their emotional stability.
Yeah.
And for yours too, and mine. So that was the first thing that we did. Now what we did after that is that we realized that because it's going to be limited time with, like, for instance, Greg's family, when we are with them, it's going to be good memories. We're going to come and visit and enjoy the time that we do have together. And then when we're not with them, we're going to honor and speak well of them. We're not going to bring up every situation that we know is going on in the family. Right. Our kids don't need to hear every little thing or disagreement that we have with your family or decisions they make or anything like that. That's not really our kids' problem to deal with. I mean, that's something that we work through as, the children of your parents, but our children don't need to deal with it. And so I'm always proud of us for that because even as I know right now, our kids are going to be listening to the podcast when it comes out and everything like that, that I know they honor what mom and dad say because we are honoring to your parents. Yeah. And I love that. So every time our kids get around your parents, we always have fun, whether we're playing outside, whether we're inside chatting, whether we're enjoying pizza together, whether we're just laughing and, riding a golf cart around their property, enjoying, the farmland that they have. And then from there, we come home and we continue those good memories, by allowing our kids obviously to have a relationship with your parents, whether it's phone calls, whether it's writing, whether it's sending pictures, whatever it may be. It's always positive, interaction from our part with the boundaries of knowing what they can handle at any given time. And we love that. That's what we love. And so we first had to define that for our immediate family, what friendships kind of look like, quote unquote, relationships look like. And I'm really happy to say, again, that came down to Greg and I having these conversations to decide what that would look like and then move forward with it.
Yeah, and I think just for our viewers, I mean, just for some context, because I'm sure that a lot of people deal with this.
Absolutely.
In particular, when you grow up in a way that's a little dysfunctional, you don't want it to be dysfunctional, and then as you start, choosing to break away from that a little bit, and all of a sudden, like we've talked about prior, I mean, creating some new normals. You choose some new normals that are healthier. For us, we really engaged in our faith,
Yes.
and that started becoming just the ultimate compass in our life. And, let's say that my parents didn't necessarily have that same belief, and the rest of my family. So here you are. It's almost like it's a tricky thing because as you start growing in a healthy way, it almost hurts your heart when you always hoped that one day maybe your family would all just get perfectly healed. And I remember I had a really strong belief for a long time that if I just keep growing, it's going to really pull them. But the reality is you can't make someone change who doesn't want to. A person convinced against their will is still unconvinced.
Correct.
So it's got to be their choice. So I remember going through these stages of this where I had to make a choice that I was going to choose this new way of living, even if it created a little bit more of a distance between me and my parents, or my brother or my sister, things like that. I needed to be able to be okay with that, right? And the reality is you got to be okay with it. When you start thinking big picture on everything, kingdom mindset and everything, you got to be willing to do that, because I can't stay back there just to have a relationship when God has me called to do bigger things, right?
And that was the cool part, because not only were you able to, kind of split that in your brain, but also we've taught our kids the same thing now, is how important it is to do what God's calling us to do it God's way, not just the comfort.
Sure.
Sometimes.
Right. So then it kind of funneled into, we're trying to do family gatherings, and we drive over from our Wisconsin home to Michigan, 6 hours with all these little kids in the car. And, of course it's a sacrifice, especially in the winter, and you don't know what weather's like. And we'd have a great time with your parents. We'd spend a certain amount of time. Then we'd try to go to my parents, spend the same amount of time, and it would be completely different. I always joke about it, but just to give people a perspective, I mean, we go to Jackie's parents, and it's like classical music, and everybody's got china out, and they're all, saying thank you and please. And it's very respectful and very honoring and very traditional and everything else. And to me, I'm looking around when I first met, I'm just like, wow, I've never experienced anything like this before. I don't know if I like it. You know what I mean? And then we go to my house,
And
my
I've
parents'
never
house.
experienced
And
anything like that.
And it's people in Led Zeppelin
To your
t-shirts.
house.
People in Led Zeppelin t-shirts.
I was way out of my
And all
comfort
kinds
zone.
of, we'll just say drama. I'll spare the details. But it was just two different atmospheres.
And to say, for some reason, I couldn't figure it out. I didn't even get to meet your parents and your family till we were engaged, babe. Like, I was like, oh, and you're like, yeah, it's all good. Just sit down. Let's enjoy ourselves. So I'm like, looking around, kind of confused. But you know what? Honestly, sometimes though, all that kind of stuff allowed us to, just chat through it, talk about it, figure it out together. Again, most likely, most people don't come from the same background when you meet each other.
But it was hard. It was hard at first because, again, I'm still hanging on that dream that hopefully this will all work out. Maybe now that they have grandkids from us, it'll be different. Maybe everybody will engage more. But then it kept being just like kind of disappointment after disappointment. And eventually we're just like, okay, this ain't good. When we're there and our kids are getting headaches because, my daddy's a chain smoker and he does it right in front of everybody. And we're like, okay, we got to limit time there. And if there's weird dysfunctionality things happening around it and it's just kind of drama, we're like, okay, we don't want to participate in that part. And so it really ended up boiling down to getting to a point where, okay, what can we do that shows as much honor and creates as much connection that we can have with them? That's just the truth of it. And to do it in the best way. And we started to come up with new strategies about how to do that. Whether it's we didn't necessarily all participate in the big family gathering with a whole bunch of people there where there's a lot of, opportunity for drama. We would just take our family and go meet them on a different day and spend a morning over there and but have a limited amount of time because after too long, things could get out of hand. And we did it only so many times a year. We kind of came to the conclusion that I would go there maybe a couple times a year. You'd go there with the kids, at least once a year. So there's still that kind of connection. We started having the kids become pen pals with grandma and, you know, things like that. And we just found different ways to
I think
honor.
it's all about, again, defining what we wanted first and then being able to really find a way to allow our creativity to spill out onto our kids and that it be a fun thing. It doesn't have to be like, oh, super disappointment forever. It doesn't have to be like, well, just because it's not this way, we can't have anything type thing. You know, it was really us figuring out how to really work together so that they could have the best kind of relationship they could with your family, regardless of all the things that were going on. And I think that's the neat thing that we're trying to explain right now is that there is so many different categories of friendships. Family, really extended family, however you want to explain it, is one category of it, you know? And obviously, as us going forward, we have our own definition what it will look like for our children and their children, but on the same sense, not just saying, well, let's cut off everything. Is there any way to have some sort of relationship so that our children can still benefit from really just, you know, where dad came from and the history of them too?
Yeah. We'll continue in the next one.
All right.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening and thanks for your love and support. We hope that today's episode added tremendous value to you and your family. It would mean so much to us if you would partner with us on our mission of helping parents around the globe raise champion children in this crazy world.
To do so, simply take a moment to like and share this podcast with everyone in your network. And we have great news. You get more of us. You can expect new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning. So be sure to consistently tune in with us and enjoy our show. See you next time.